I had to talk about a story that's very, very important. And albeit indirectly, it involves Caitlin Clark, the Department of Justice, and quite possibly the President of the United States himself. Somebody got to say it, so I'm going to say it. Ms. Clark's targeting may reflect a culture of disparate treatment, and the evidence provides reasonable cause for a federal probe into potential civil rights violations.
Stephen A. Smith just made a statement that could send shockwaves through the WNBA front office. He's no longer just criticizing officiating. He's now calling for federal authorities to investigate what's happening with Caitlin Clark. Remember, this is the same Caitlin Clark who fueled a 601% surge in merchandise sales and helped push team valuations to new heights. She's also the one who pulled in 1.29 million All-Star votes, yet somehow still ended up ranked only 9th among guards by fellow players. Something doesn't add up here, and Stephen A. believes it's serious enough for the government to get involved. If you agree she deserves protection, drop a "Protect Caitlin Clark" in the comments.
The golden child in her second year in the league, who was top 4 in MVP voting last year, the assist leader last year, a galvanizing talent that has done wonders for the NBA. If she is seen to be physically getting abused on a basketball court in a way that is such a clear and flagrant discrepancy compared to what happens to others, that man is not going to say something.
Caitlin Clark hasn't just entered the WNBA, she's completely reshaped its financial landscape. Practically overnight, she turned into the league's driving force, producing revenue figures that are nothing short of historic. The numbers tell the story. Merchandise sales skyrocketed, Indiana Fever ratings multiplied, overall league viewership doubled, franchise values soared to 3 times their previous mark, and League Pass subscriptions jumped an incredible 366%. These aren't minor gains. They represent the kind of seismic growth most leagues can only imagine.
Caitlin Clark has done for the women's NBA what Michael Jordan once did for the NBA. Made it more valuable, watchable, and marketable. Instead of protecting its transformative star, the league's leadership ignores the relentless targeting of Ms. Clark, treating its greatest asset as if she were a PR headache. That approach could turn into a legal liability for the WNBA.
Caitlin Clark has become a marketing powerhouse, securing more than $11 million in endorsement deals while driving WNBA app engagement up by an astounding 613%, levels the league has never experienced before. She isn't just another star player. She's a one-woman economic shift. Nearly every measurable category tied to her presence shows unprecedented growth, reshaping the financial reality of women's basketball.
Since she joined the league last year, Ms. Clark's impact has been seismic. Merchandise sales soared 601%. Indiana Fever viewership jumped 170%. The team's value tripled. League Pass subscriptions climbed 366%. App engagement rose 613%. And her endorsements topped $11 million. She's the economic engine driving the league forward.
But here's where things get troubling. Rather than safeguarding their biggest star, the league left Clark exposed to levels of physical punishment we haven't seen before. The numbers back it up. She absorbed 17% of all flagrant fouls across the entire season, twice as many as the next closest player. Pause on that for a moment. One athlete taking nearly a fifth of the league's most dangerous fouls.
Let me tell you what kind of quotes Trump would lead on. Sophie Cunningham told the Wall Street Journal she's Caitlin Clark's teammate with the Indiana Fever. The star player of the league is not being protected. Rebecca Lobo, analyst, ESPN. What does she say? Every single one of those plays against Caitlin Clark has been a foul.
Now think about what that really means. The athlete generating the most revenue for the league is also the one enduring the harshest treatment on the court, while officials repeatedly swallow the whistle. Game after game, defenders deliver cheap shots to the very player who boosted franchise values threefold. Contact that would instantly draw flagrant calls for seasoned veterans somehow goes unnoticed when it's Clark on the receiving end. Watch the footage closely and a disturbing pattern emerges. Brutal fouls downgraded to common. Obvious targeting brushed aside. Late hits allowed to continue without interruption. The league's most valuable asset was being battered like a practice dummy while referees acted as if nothing was happening.
By the way, when she was out for the All-Star weekend this year, because she was hurt, by the way, because of the roughhouse tactics all of those folks alluded to, the ratings dropped 36%. They still had over 2 million views, but they had over 3 million last year. It dropped because she wasn't playing. Now, I told y'all, Candace Parker tried to tell y'all, Rebecca Lobo is trying to tell y'all, the goose that lays the golden eggs, the tide that lifts all boats.
This isn't random. It's a clear pattern that exposes just how poorly the WNBA has handled its most valuable star. When the player driving record profits is also the one taking twice as many flagrant fouls as anyone else, the system is broken. The real question is, how could league leadership allow resentment and envy to outweigh simple business logic? How do you let the athlete who redefined your financial model become the target of repeated, unchecked abuse?
Do you know what Gino Auriemma said? He said she's being targeted. I don't remember when Michael Jordan came into the league, guys looking to go out and beat him up. Only the Detroit Pistons were looking to beat him up. And then after that, the New York Knicks with Pat Riley and Ewing and Anthony Mason and Xavier McDaniels and Charles Oakley and all of these guys. The John Starks of the world, Derek Harpers of the world eventually, stuff like that.
Stephen A. Smith didn't just call out the WNBA. He raised the stakes in a way that should alarm Commissioner Kathy Engelbert and every executive in the league office. When Smith shifts from critiquing officiating to openly suggesting federal investigators get involved, it signals that this controversy has grown far bigger than basketball.
Ms. Clark's targeting may reflect a culture of disparate treatment, and the evidence provides reasonable cause for a federal probe into potential civil rights violations. Am I making it up now? Remember I said this months ago. Remember I talked about people being jealous. The Cheryl Swoops of the world and others. Remember I pointed that stuff out? Remember I talked about the rough housing?
Even the Wall Street Journal weighed in, publishing a striking op-ed that framed Clark's treatment as a potential civil rights concern. This wasn't an anonymous rant or a fringe blogger making noise. This was one of the nation's most respected outlets, effectively putting the WNBA on notice. The article didn't hold back, calling out exactly what it saw happening to the league's brightest star.
This would mirror the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission investigation into the Erica Hamby's pregnancy discrimination claims against the WNBA and her team. Congress and Labor and Justice Departments would be justified in examining the facts.
Stephen A. Smith reinforced this point on air, insisting that federal authorities have legitimate reasons to investigate. He's no longer just debating questionable calls. He's highlighting systematic patterns that could potentially breach workplace protection laws. When someone with Smith's platform and understanding of the legal landscape raises the alarm, people take notice.
You don't think Caitlin Clark could become an issue of national, potentially international, and definitely federal proportions? You don't think so?
This has moved far beyond sports commentary. We're now in the realm of potential Justice Department investigations and congressional scrutiny. When federal agencies begin probing internal communications and decision-making processes, everything shifts almost instantly. Every email is examined. Every meeting is dissected. Every policy decision comes under a microscope.
Senator Jim Banks' 2024 letter to WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert demanded answers on Ms. Clark's treatment. Congress and the administration should demand answers from WNBA leaders, investigate officiating and internal league communications, hold hearings, and insist on real reforms. This is in a Wall Street Journal. The Labor Department should review the league protocols for workplace safety. If evidence shows discrimination or retaliation, the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division must act. If leaders remain inert, Congress should reconsider the WNBA's special privileges, including its antitrust and broadcast considerations. Checking referees' work with NBA-style last 2-minute reports would be a meaningful first step toward building trust.
At the heart of the discussion are workplace safety violations and disparate treatment, the same legal principles that underpin major civil rights cases. Federal investigators aren't concerned with basketball rivalries or veteran dynamics. Their focus is on whether an individual's workplace rights are being compromised through repeated targeting and insufficient protection.
But 17 flagrant fouls have been called against people for beating up on Caitlin Clark. That's practically double what's happened for any other player in the league. They have evidence to say she's being treated unfairly.
Consider the implications for league operations. Federal investigators would have the authority to subpoena referee communications, front office decisions, and internal player protection policies. They could demand answers for why the league's top player endured twice as many flagrant fouls as anyone else. They could also examine whether the WNBA's failure to respond effectively to clear targeting contributed to a hostile work environment.
That was the first salvo. I'm not asking you. This is Stephen A, baby. I'm telling you. It's the first salvo. It's not an accident that this is coming shortly after the WNBA players foolishly wore those shirts. As Candace Parker pointed out, pay us what you owe us, antagonizing the league, with pending CBA negotiations coming.
Once federal investigators begin probing systematic targeting and hostile work environments, the WNBA's challenges extend far beyond the court. Instead of celebrating its brightest star, the league has created circumstances that could require government intervention. This isn't just embarrassing. It could have serious consequences for the league's credibility and future operations.
Mystics co-owner Sheila Johnson questioned Ms. Clark's 2024 Time Athlete of the Year recognition. Ms. Clark shattered fan vote records with 1.29 million all-star votes, yet ranked only 9th among guards on the player ballot.
Want to see jealousy at work? Take a look at the all-star voting. It's a clear example of how Clark's peers seemed intent on downplaying her influence. Fans made their voices heard loud and clear, but the players sent a very different message. Clark pulled in 1.29 million fan votes. Not just impressive, but a record-breaking surge that should have cemented her as the undeniable face of the event. These weren't casual, disengaged votes. Fans were actively involved, supporting the league through merchandise, ticket purchases, and overall engagement.
Dick Vitale. When the 1.29 million all-star votes came in for Caitlin Clark, yet she was ranked 9th among guards on a player ballot. Quote, absolutely pure jealousy that the WNBA players voted Caitlin Clark the 9th best guard. Someday they will realize what she has done for all of the players in the WNBA. Chartered planes, increase in salaries, sold out crowds, improved TV ratings, etc. And they ain't lying. They ain't lying.
But when the player voting results were revealed, the outcome was shocking. Clark ranked 9th among guards according to her peers. 9th. The player responsible for attracting millions of new fans and transforming the league's economic landscape somehow didn't earn top recognition from fellow athletes. She ended up behind players that many casual fans couldn't even name. This wasn't just a slight, it sent a clear message. When fans overwhelmingly support a player but peers rank her low, it highlights deeper internal dynamics within the league. The gap between fan enthusiasm and peer rejection underscores exactly what Stephen A. Smith and others have criticized about WNBA culture.
And those players that are talking about their value, what's going to be held against you is looking at your value when Caitlin Clark is not playing. And when you see a precipitous drop off, it ain't going to be about y'all, it's going to be about her. Even if it's wrong. Even if it's unfair, that's how it's going to go down. And when it goes down like that, that's exactly the kind of ammunition that the president will use to his advantage as he so sees fit.
The data tells a clear story. The league's most popular player was being snubbed by the very peers who should have been celebrating her. These were the same players benefiting from higher contracts and increased media exposure fueled by Clark's fame, but they couldn't acknowledge her contributions. The All-Star voting revealed a harsh truth about league priorities. Fans embraced Clark's transformative impact on women's basketball, while some veteran players seemed intent on blocking the recognition she deserved. This wasn't just about rankings on the court. It was about control, gatekeeping, and resisting a shift in the established order. Here's the reality WNBA executives can't ignore. Their future depends on keeping Caitlin Clark happy and protected. Her return in 2025 marks a pivotal moment. Either the league adapts to fully support its most valuable star, or it risks losing the very player who revitalized its economic foundation.
Some of it, Caitlin Clark brings on herself because she talks, she chirps, she antagonizes. That's how Angel Reese became so famous, because Angel Reese clapped back at her the way she was clapping back at people leading into that national championship loss to LSU a few years back when she was at Iowa. And that's how Angel Reese became famous.
The television contracts, merchandise deals, and sponsorships that Clark brought in aren't short-term windfalls. They're multi-year commitments built on the expectation of her continued success and well-being. Nike didn't invest in that massive deal anticipating that she'd be subjected to nightly physical abuse. ESPN didn't expand WNBA coverage just to watch referees overlook blatant fouls against the league's most popular player.
The players were making the case of what they deserve and what they earn, and right around the time that happens, now you got the Justice Department and the Trump administration being egged on to pay attention to this issue so it will get addressed. And when you have Senator Jim Banks, a senator, writing a letter to the WNBA commissioner demanding answers on Caitlin Clark's treatment.
The Indiana Fever's front office has made it clear they won't allow Clark to endure the same treatment in 2025. They've invested too much in building around her to sit idly by while other teams deliver cheap shots. The roster moves reflect this strategy. Sophie Cunningham's addition wasn't just about her basketball skills. It was also about adding a player who can help protect Clark on the court. Lexi Hull, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell have all demonstrated they'll stand up for their teammate. If federal investigators get involved, the WNBA could face serious consequences. Sponsors withdrawing support, networks renegotiating contracts, and a public relations crisis far worse than current controversies. Corporate America is unlikely to tolerate workplace safety violations or systematic targeting, and they won't hesitate to pull back.
Treatment towards this golden goose, a spectacular talent that is one of the preeminent futures, if not the future face of the WNBA, if she isn't considered that already. In Caitlin Clark, who also happens to be white, playing in the Midwest, with evidence of unfair treatment.
Clark now holds all the leverage. She redefined the economic landscape of women's basketball in a single season, and the league needs her far more than she needs them. The 2025 season will reveal whether the WNBA has learned to protect its most valuable asset or if outside intervention becomes necessary to ensure her safety and success. The league faced a choice: embrace the player who transformed their entire financial model, or let jealousy and resentment undermine the very thing that propelled the sport forward. Unfortunately, they chose poorly, and now federal investigators may have to step in to safeguard Caitlin Clark from both internal politics and jealous veteran players. The WNBA must evolve, or face the consequences of its mismanagement. If you agree that government oversight might be needed, comment "Protect Caitlin Clark." Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Click the video on the screen, and we'll see you next time.